Hi, I'm Austin Scott, and I'm here to introduce to you seed money. Many of us are familiar with the buy local movement, the idea that we should buy as much of our food from local sources as possible. There's a big problem facing many aspiring locavores, however. How do we reconcile our desired ideals with this stark reality? Many customers face a disappointing choice between spending way too much money on high quality but expensive local products and saving money for low quality food from the grocery store, some of which has been shipped from thousands of miles away. The biggest issue is that the food products sold at grocery stores are sold at wholesale by large farming conglomerates. By taking advantage of economies of scale, they can offer grocery stores huge discounts, which then sell the products at substantially lower prices than local farmers can offer. One of the emerging solutions to this imbalance is community sourced agriculture, or CSAs. While CSAs have had some success, there are many problems associated with them. Let's take a look at how the market looks right now. In one corner, we have our local farmer. Business is okay, but not great. He doesn't really know what to do about it, though. He doesn't know a lot about professional marketing techniques, and it isn't worth hiring someone to do it for him. Over here, we have our everyday shopper. A lot of these people would like to buy local, but they either don't know where to start or the price is too steep for their budget. And here in between them is seed money. Seed money works out a deal that suits both parties. We offer the customer a discount on products at participating vendors. We provide them with all the information they could possibly want on who sells what and when and where, and we connect them with vendors and other customers like them. In exchange for a discount on their great products, we promise to bring the farmer more customers, and we handle all of the marketing and organizational work that they don't want to mess with. So how does this process work? Let's start with who we're selling to. We're targeting people who do the grocery shopping for themselves or their households, who want to buy local and are tech friendly enough to use a smartphone app. They range from roughly mid-20s to around 60. We may have some customers over 60. It just depends on whether they want to bother with the technology or not. Our customers are mostly middle class with some upper class mixed in and are predominantly female. Nationwide, this breaks down to about 31 million people, or in our starting state of Ohio, a little over 1 million. The customers interact with seed money through our mobile app. There are three main functions which let them do everything they need to do. First, they use the app to pay for products. They just pull up the app when they want to purchase something, and the vendor scans the code with their own device. Second, they can manage their account. Customers can choose one of two ways of using seed money. The most popular is the subscription option. You decide how much you want to pay per month, and you get a certain amount of credit on your account every month. The higher your subscription amount, the more bonus credit you get. You can also use the wholesale option. Instead of paying every month, you just pay one time for an even bigger bonus. Third, the app is how customers access Seed Money's social network. Here they can look up information about vendors like who sells peaches or grass-fed beef. They can also talk to other customers and give recommendations and feedback. Vendors can use the app too, like to let everybody know when the first tomatoes are in season. Here's an example. Take this shopper, for instance. We'll call her Brenda. Brenda's a regular at the farmer's market, and her family has a pretty large grocery budget. She chooses the $500 subscription option. Every month, she gets $575 in her seed money account that she can use whenever she wants at any participating vendor. So she goes to a market and buys $100 worth of products. The vendor scans the code on her phone with their phone, and the money comes right out of her account. She doesn't need to carry any cash or cards on her either. Brenda actually represents one of four target market segments. They fit into categories based on how much they shop and how much they make. For instance, the first group are regular shoppers with low income. They don't spend a lot, but they really like the buy local movement and how convenient it is to use the app. The next group, where Brenda fits in, are also regular shoppers, but with a higher income. A lot of them probably already buy from farmers markets, and they love the idea of getting more for their money where they're already shopping. This group is our most important source of revenue, but they might take some time to convince at first. The third group are casual shoppers with low income. They like the idea of buying local, but they're not sold on it and they'll lose interest eventually. To them, this is an impulse buy. They're not reliable, but they are an important piece of the puzzle. Finally, the fourth group are casual shoppers with high income. Several types of people fall into this category, and there aren't a lot of them. Some of them are hesitant to try something new, but others will like how much money they can save using the app. They're few and far between, but they provide a healthy source of revenue. The other side of this equation is our relationship with the vendors. We have to get vendors on board or we have nothing to offer our customers. Vendors will be brought on board through personal selling by our sales force. We offer to bring them lots of customers like a CSA would bring in, but we handle all of the extra work. We just ask that they give a discount on their products to seed money customers. In the early stages, selling vendors on the idea might be tough. We may have to offer them a guarantee that they won't lose money on us for the first year until they get to see how the process works. Once they sign on, we'll provide them with all the resources they need to advertise seed money to their customers too. Fortunately, seed money is stepping into a bit of an empty space. The only real competition is traditional CSAs, and they aren't too common in the Midwest because the farms that could offer them either don't have enough help to set them up or don't have enough customers to make it worth the effort. CSAs have been successful in areas with lots of farms and customers, so the model definitely works. The economics are just different. Seed money not only fixes the issues with the existing model, but it changes the scale of operations, so farms can reap the benefits of having a CSA without having to pay for one by themselves. It would also probably be easy to convince some existing CSAs to participate with seed money instead of trying to compete with us. And this is why. As I've said, traditional CSAs have several issues, and they really don't let the customer get the most for their money. First, most CSAs only offer a few options for subscription. Different amounts and discounts are just too complicated for a farmer to keep track of on their own. In addition, convenience in these organizations heavily favor the farmer. The farmer picks what goes into each person's bags or baskets. Sometimes it's whatever they couldn't sell at the market and have too much of. And they either drop it off or have their customers pick it up when it's convenient for the farmer. Seed money changes all of this. Customers can pick virtually any subscription or wholesale option they could want, and they spend it on any product at any vendor whenever they want. They can spend everything on one day or stop every day on the way home, whatever works for them. Pricing is key to seed money being profitable. Options will be set in intervals, say $50 a month or $100 or $500 and so on. Higher amounts will give customers a higher discount. Now here's the tricky part. The customer never sees the actual discount. Instead, they get extra money in their account each month. The discount actually happens between seed money and the vendor. The customer might get 10% of their subscription fee added to their account, but the vendor has agreed to take 20% less from seed money customers. This way they can keep their prices the same, but the math still works out. The important part is the margin between the discount the customer receives and the discount the vendor gives seed money. This margin is where seed money makes its profit, so it can never be higher than what the vendor is offering us. This is why the highest discount available to customers, which would be at the highest subscription amount, needs to be equal to or just a little less than the total discount that seed money receives from the vendor. Seed money will reach customers in two main ways. First, a small team of dedicated salespeople will sell directly to customers through promotional events at popular markets, with displays showing customers how the app works and how they can get it and start using it right away. The other is through social media. Social media ads are nice because they let us narrow the range to just our potential customers. And a lot of these people are friends with other potential customers, so we can take advantage of viral marketing as well. Most of the focus in this area will be on Facebook, but other social media might be added if it shows potential. Seed money has two links in the supply chain between us and the customer. The first critical piece is the app. The app is the only direct access the customer has to seed money once they've started a subscription. A small company in the Cincinnati area called Atomic Robot does great work in this area, and they would be the first choice to develop our app. They will also handle customer support with the app during the company's early stages, and it will be important to have as many details about cost structures as possible ironed out before the development actually starts. The second and equally vital link in the chain is our vendors. Without them, we have nothing to offer customers. Again, negotiating the discount with them will be the defining factor in the company's profitability, because the discount they agree to is the cap for our possible profit margin. As mentioned, the earliest markets will be the hardest place to sell to vendors because we won't have data to support that we will make them money. So some added incentives or guarantees might be necessary to get them on board for a trial run. Now, the company will start out in my home city of Cincinnati. Not only is Cincinnati the archetype of the kind of market we want, there are lots of local farms and lots of customers who love market shopping, but I personally have connections to many of the vendors and market managers. Given the concerns regarding vendor selling, a little networking will be a big advantage in our first market. After Cincinnati, the company would expand to some other similar cities nearby. In Ohio, Dayton and Columbus are good candidates, and so is Lexington in Kentucky. The state of Virginia has good potential too, and so does the city of Indianapolis, but the rest of Indiana is really not ideal for what we need in a new market. At launch, the company will actually not have a physical location, and it really won't need one for some time. The initial staff would only be me and a handful of salespeople. I'm thinking 3 to start with and 3 more added on after we've gained some momentum and get some vendors on board. Once the sales force grows large enough to need the first support staff hired on, we'll lease an office in the Cincinnati area. There are plenty of good options for a reasonable price that would be within easy driving distance of all the major markets around the city. Fortunately for seed money, a lot of PPE concerns that a lot of businesses have wouldn't even apply to our company. So this increases our flexibility not only with location, but it also frees up capital to grow the company. We'll lease office space as we need it and stay out of long-term obligations so we can upgrade quickly if we need to. Also, our storage needs would be minimal, so we won't be wasting money on unused space. Our team will be almost completely salespeople for a while. Salespeople would be selling to both customers and vendors. They will all be full-time employees, and they will all receive a benefits package. We want a few highly dedicated individuals who will buy into the mission of the company in a way that contract employees simply would not. In addition, their pay will be heavily performance-based, and we'll target candidates who work well under these types of conditions. As sales demand grows and more salespeople are needed, additional staff will be hired on. There's a great article from Forbes from a woman who worked at a startup when she was young. The organization had about 40 people at the time, and the HR demands were taking up so much of the CEO's time that it was interfering with their other duties. She volunteered to take on the responsibility, and her advice to entrepreneurs is to use this distraction as a criteria for hiring. If there's one particular kind of work that's taking up so much of your time that it's keeping you from doing what you really need to be doing, then you should hire someone to take on that work. In the case of seed money, that first area will probably be HR. A growing sales force will mean more paperwork for benefits and payroll, and more organization needing in the hiring process. This person, like most of the other starting staff, should have startup experience if possible, or at least experience in a similar project or organization that required them to cope with quick changes and scale. Eventually, full-time IT help will be needed to provide not only customer support, but also consult with the developer on future changes and ultimately take on the task of developing and maintaining the app in-house. A sales and marketing specialist would probably be promoted from the existing sales team once the marketing needs of the company grow beyond Cincinnati. And this person would be responsible for not only overseeing current salespeople, but also training new ones. And then also financial and legal specialists would be needed, as well as regional management once the company branches out beyond Cincinnati. Now, regional managers will be the most important hires once the company expands. They will essentially set up a micro version of what the Cincinnati team has set up. They will hire their own salespeople, and they will be the company's representatives to vendors and customers in their own markets. Additional regions will be given support from the corporate office as that team grows, but regional managers will be given significant independence in their markets. Regional managers will also be the highest level employees without opportunity to earn equity in the company, so a particular type of individual will need to fill these roles. They will have to be people who will buy into the company's mission, who will stay in their position or move up rather than leave, and they need to be strong, effective leaders in their sphere of influence. Here's a chart of what the organization of the company will look like as it grows. One important consideration regarding staffing is that leaders in different areas of the company will be hired on as specialists, not necessarily managers. First, these specialists will not have subordinates when they're hired. They will be added later as the company grows. Instead, the specialists will function as a one-person department responsible for all the needs in their area, and they would be paid a similar wage to what they would earn in other companies at that level. However, these initial specialists will receive two advantages given to no one else in the company. First, they will be prioritized for promotions as the company scales up and the corporate team grows in size. Seed money will pay for additional training and schooling if necessary, and they already have the most relevant experience possible to be hired for a position within the company. Second, they will be allowed to earn equity over time. Spacing out the earning over the course of a year or two helps to compensate for the unlikelihood of getting a raise and also encourages people to stay with the company. Again, all specialist roles will need to have either direct experience working in a startup company or similar rapid growth environment. The HR specialist will be targeted for their ability to hire other great people, but also for their ability to create systems which will be effective even as the company grows exponentially larger. The sales specialist will probably be the salesperson with greatest potential, who proves that they can generate sales revenue or bring vendors on board. Marketing potential would be preferred but not necessary, but management potential will be absolutely necessary. Even the best of specialists can sometimes make lousy managers. The finance specialist will need scaling experience more than anyone else because the ability to make both sides of the balance sheet scale together will make or break the company's future. Expenses cannot be allowed to outpace sources of funding, and the financial specialist will need to hold everything in check. The legal specialist will be a somewhat odd position. They may be a consultant just brought in at the beginning and then intermittently as needed, or they may be hired on full-time later. What is important is that they're well-versed in these three areas because any legal hang-ups in any of them could completely cripple operations. Seed money's personnel will be brought on in 3 stages. The first stage will run from launch through roughly 2 years. This stage will include the original half dozen or so salespeople and a few specialists when they become necessary. The medium term will see regional management appear as the company expands to new markets, and some specialists will be promoted to executive positions as they take on their own teams. The long term will see further expanded regional leadership as growing markets need their own support staff. The corporate team will continue filling out, and some more niche roles which had been covered by the specialists will have their own positions. This is also when IT would assume all the responsibility for managing the app in-house. Positions at Seed Money will be filled through a few different channels depending on the level of the position. Local staff, such as salespeople, will be recruited through basic job posting outlets like online job boards, as well as through employee referrals, which we'll offer a cash incentive for. Regional management will be recruited through these same channels, but also through networking efforts, and references from previous or current employers will be an essential qualification. Current employees may be hired for these positions, but only if they meet all necessary criteria, because this is not the place to settle on quality. Executives will have a higher requirement for formal education, but the starting specialists will be heavily favored for these roles if they are interested in pursuing the necessary further training that they'll need to fill them. Any positions at this level which can't be filled by promoting from within will be outsourced to professional recruiters, since the needs will be so specific that the channels used for the other positions wouldn't make sense. In addition to hired personnel, Seed Money will need a team of trusted advisors as the company charts its course. These are all individuals from the Cincinnati area with irreplaceable value in one area or another. First of these is Jim Tarbell. Jim is something of an icon in Cincinnati. He had a successful career starting his own business when he was younger, and more recently he's held several important political positions, including the vice mayor of Cincinnati. He has connections to some very influential people throughout the city, and he's a frequent shopper at my family's farm stand at Findlay Market, so I know him rather well. Second member of our advisory board is Corey Ward. Corey is the co-founder of Tom and Chi, which is a restaurant startup that got its big break by striking a deal with Barbara Corcoran on the first season of Shark Tank, and now Corey's company oversees over 40 stores in the Cincinnati area and beyond. He also happened to grow up on a farm outside of Cincinnati, and he's an excellent marketer. The next two advisors come from an organization called Mortar, located in Over the Rhine, a neighborhood which Cincinnati has seen huge investment in as far as local business development. Mortar provides resources to prospective entrepreneurs and has been a part of several successful ventures in Cincinnati. Alan Woods is one of the founding partners and also happens to attend the same church as me. And then Sidell Bridley is the catalyst strategist at Mortar. She has connections outside the business community from her charity and nonprofit work. Giving back to the community and being a force for positive change will be an important part of Seed Money's mission. In this same line of thought, three of my friends from Findlay Market will be on the board too. Mike Hass and Becca Hine have both been market managers at Findlay for a number of years. They know basically all the vendors we could possibly want and have lots of experience working in the middle ground between vendors and customers. Tristan Krieger works in Findlay's more socially focused programs. He's been involved in several startups, both businesses and nonprofits, and he's heavily involved in causes close to Seed Money's mission and the hearts of many of its customers. Two positions which don't have specific individuals to fill them yet are a financial advisor and a legal advisor. The financial advisor will be needed mostly for their experience in banking due to the nature of Seed Money's supply chain. There are several great financial institutions with strong presence in the Cincinnati business community, so PNC and Great American Insurance would be good places to look for candidates for this role. I already mentioned the need for a legal advisor because Seed Money's business model overlaps several areas where legal knowledge could help to avoid potential landmines. This person, or possibly people, would need to have knowledge in interstate commerce and financial technology, as well as areas of concern for any startup. Depending on the need for their continued involvement, they may be hired on as a member of the staff or may just be a paid consultant. Before I dive into the finances, there are a few assumptions behind my calculations. First, the venture will stay in Cincinnati for 2 full years. The Cincinnati market is capped at around 43,000 customers. The average customer will contribute around 7% profit margin. The effective maximum of sales can be reached by the end of the second fiscal year, and sales growth follows a normal distribution pattern. In addition, I'm assuming that a team of 6 salespeople can roughly achieve market saturation in the Cincinnati market. As I've stated, 3 salespeople would start the company, and once we gain momentum and some important vendors, 3 more would be added around May of the first fiscal year. If 6 salespeople can meet this market saturation need, then no administrative or support staff would be necessary, so their salaries have not been taken into account for these calculations. Some more assumptions include an additional line of credit or equity investment would be necessary to meet the funding needs until sales can reach a point of sustainability. There's no significant customer attrition accounted for, or it is assumed to be included in the total sales growth. There would be no additional expenditure, such as due to errors in payables, and the salaries for salespeople either do not receive bonuses or their salaries have already accounted for this. And finally, no app maintenance is accounted for in these calculations. With these assumptions in mind, this is the outlook that I'm projecting. First, seed money could possibly be profitable in fewer than 2 years given the right talent and a sufficient response rate from customers and vendors. Second, our expenses could be much lower than one might expect, which would give us more freedom in how to use our capital. Third, organic sales growth could surpass overhead in a very short amount of time, which would reduce the amount of debt or equity investment we would need to expand to other markets and grow the company. At worst, the total amount of external capital we would need shouldn't be more than $500,000, and that includes the $225,000 needed to pay for the app and domain at launch. And fourth, finally, this all implies that seed money could expand out of its own bank account. Depending on the growth rate and timing, the company may be able to pay for expansion without any or at least very little need for external funding. This would increase equity earnings or at the very least protect the company from issues like being unable to pay interest on its loans or dealing with unhappy investors. Now, there are a few possible issues to keep in mind that could spell major trouble for the company. First, there's the possibility that vendors would not be willing to take a risk on giving us a discount to participate. We'll mitigate these fears by selling to leaders in the community first, which should encourage some of the others to give us a chance. In addition, we may need to provide vendors in early markets with some sort of financial incentive or guarantee for the first year. Second, customers might not find the discount worth their while. This is why we need to make sure that the discount we work out with vendors is high enough to offer a good discount to customers, but still leave room for the company to make a profit. Third, salespeople might not be able to make enough sales for the company to be sustainable. If this is the case, we may need to shift our focus from in-person direct selling to online advertisement, although this is certainly not the preferred way for us to sell to our customers. Fourth, sales growth could be slower than projected, although the total market cap is actually probably higher than what I've assumed it to be. If sales growth is slower, this may mean taking on more debt or equity investments to fund operations until sales reach sustainability. And fifth, even if sales growth is as high as expected, the average revenue we receive from each customer may be lower than expected. So long as the revenue is not so low that it can never reach sustainability, this would just imply a longer timetable for expansion, and again, more external funding might be needed until growth reaches a high enough level. With all of this in mind, let's return to what we're actually offering, not just to customers or vendors, but to the marketplace as a whole. Remember, the current equilibrium exists because large grocery store chains receive their products from large farming conglomerates at steep discounts. Local farmers almost always offer superior quality, but their scope of operations is so small that they can't hope to compete with grocery stores on price. This leaves customers to make an often unhappy compromise in which they settle for lower quality food which they can afford and buy locally only on occasion or not at all. This leads many to see grocery store food products as an acceptable substitute, but for those people who want to buy local, this is comparing apples to oranges. While they may be saving money by buying from the grocery store, customers are not getting what they actually want, because what they want is more than food. It's an experience. The relationship that develops between vendors and customers is an irreplaceable part of what builds communities, and grocery stores can never offer this. The money spent at local farm stands takes a much shorter trip through the economy as well. A vendor at Findlay Market began stamping all the cash they received to make this point. And every weekend, many customers return home with money stamped with the vendor's logo, and many other vendors take these bills home in their cash boxes. This equilibrium is not just about food. It's about the value of making local commerce affordable in an increasingly globalized world. What seed money is offering is not a complete disruption of the current market, but it does offer a way to shift the balance back toward the community. There are products which grocery stores will always offer. Farmers can't grow Fruit Loops. But for many people, a marginal discount would make the difference between having to settle for food that they don't like from a company that they don't care about supporting, and buying food from great people in their own town who will help keep that money circulating in their own communities. The current market is built on shaky foundations, and the future is not encouraging for local farmers if something doesn't change. Seed money cannot promise a perfect market, but it can certainly offer a better one.